Well, the Casino Gauntlet match was next for the National Heavyweight Championship. And Brian, again, did anybody, I know Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley cooperated with this because at this point they were probably laughing to themselves. We'll get paid to do this idiot's idea. But nobody with a clue laid out any of this match. Maybe they laid out some of it, but nobody was in charge of all of it. This was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. It's a gauntlet match, but they actually come out and say the guys come out at random intervals, which was sometimes it was 45 seconds. It might be fucking 2 minutes. We don't know. And it's another match where there is no disqualification. Yeah, other people can come out and freely be involved because, yeah. And we're just going to send a bunch of random people out and not pay any attention to how that most of them are going to have nothing to fucking do once they're out there. So they start out with Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley, and obviously that is the anticipation, and they had teased it once and then never promoted it. That it might be Lashley versus Benjamin. So then they win the matches. They're the first two guys in, and they kind of spar around and kind of like they're going to go for something. It is kind of like they're starting to set up a little friendly shoot in the gym or whatever. And before they actually really do anything but back up in a corner, the music plays, and here comes Ricochet. Our little bald bitch friend with a microphone. Hey, come on, you guys got to fight. We don't want any of that wrestling crap. Oh, the last thing we want is wrestling on this wrestling show. But that's what they could have done. Bobby and Shelton both are high-level enough amateur wrestlers that if they'd have bothered to, not they being Shelton and Bobby, but if whoever came up with this fiasco had bothered to say, hey, how about for the first couple of minutes, you start out, you don't really want to do it, but okay, you start to have the little friendly shoot and you lock up and you go down and you're working some amateur wrestling, and then somebody, it doesn't matter which one, gets the goddamn sit out. The other guy gets frustrated a little bit. You hook it up a little bit more and build that for 2 minutes where each guy gets away from each other a couple times, and just where they're starting to get testy with each other. And maybe that's when MVP might get up on the apron and go, wait a minute, to get to people invest in this. And then dickhead's music plays. And then here he comes with the goddamn deal. And at that point, while he's coming down the aisleway with the microphone, his stooges, Tia Leone and Bishop Khan, they jump Lashley and Benjamin from behind, and Ricochet then beats MVP up in a fake way. And you know MVP could stretch the fucking guy. And these stooges that, as I mentioned, I think Khan's the smaller one. He's got some kind of potential. The big one's the shits, and they physically beat Lashley and Benjamin up, but they didn't do anything near to them what had been done to Darby Allin in the previous match or whatever. But Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley are going to lay there, Brian. I didn't go back to time it. Would you say it was 15 minutes?
The match was at least 20, maybe a little bit more. Yeah, I would say at least 15 minutes, yeah.
Okay, so the referees come out and get Ricochet stooges out of there, and they help MVP to the back. But Lashley and Benjamin just slide over to the railings out of kind of the immediate camera view and are going to lay there without getting up for the next 10 to 15 minutes. Then here comes Claudio, and is this a mess already? And then Garcia. And Hurt's still laying there. And this black hole of charisma, Garcia gets in and he's a heel, but he's beating up Ricochet. And then they've got a situation where they've got two heels beating up one heel and the two baby faces. There have been people in propofol-induced comas that came around on their own quicker. Then Pockets comes out. I'm like, good God, it gets worse. And he wanders in and does comedy with Ricochet and botched a spot with Claudio. And then here comes Wheeler again. What the fuck? Pockets is standing in the ring. Wheeler's wandering out. Then they just 3-on-1 Pockets. And I wrote, I swear to God, Shelton and Bobby are still laying on the floor. And so this, when they're not using furniture and setting people on fire, now I know why they do all those things, because this is how they lay their matches out. And then Kevin Knight came out. At that point, I wanted to be unconscious with Lashley and Benjamin. And then Roderick Strong. And every time somebody comes out, they'll get in and do something, and then a bunch of people will just disappear. And a couple of guys may do spots with each other. Then here came Fat Ass Davis. He is goddamn immense. His ass has its own gravitational pull. And he's got a great pile driver. But it doesn't beat anybody. He used it twice. They just got right back up and kept going. And then Hong Kong Phooey. Is this a rib? Has there ever been a douchier, more unlikable babyface? And this, now they get, Spitball and Kevin Knight are partners like Lashley and Benjamin. Lashley and Benjamin could have effectively, if they'd have structured it this way, worked legitimate amateur wrestling and got people into it. These two do a kung fu movie routine with each other where they're hopping up and down like they're both barefoot and they're on a fucking hot frying pan. And just back bends and fucking... And then here comes Matt Menard. And for a minute, I said, Matt, who the fuck is Matt Menard? It's Mac Daddy. Remember Mac Daddy?
Of course.
He hadn't been on a show in 3 fucking years.
From the Jericho Appreciation Society.
Apparently, he was Garcia's trainer or mentor, so we have him to blame. And he and Garcia had I can only describe it as a girls' slap fight. And then they went to the floor and Garcia ran out of the building away from Mac Daddy. And at that point, Claudio and Fat Ass were in the ring, and Shelton and Bobby woke up from their slumber like Rip Van fucking Winkle. And they slid in the ring and beat everybody up. They went from, oh, we've been unconscious for 15 minutes to, well, let's throw 6 people around. And then they cornered Ricochet, and I thought, good, they'll kill him. They'll just kill him dead. And then everybody else did something, and Ricochet hit Kevin Knight with something, and Ricochet beat Kevin Knight, so he's the new national champion. This was one of the biggest messes I've ever seen perpetrated in a wrestling ring. And just endless entrances of nobodies in a match that made no fucking sense whatsoever.
And that was one of the good matches. No, it was a bit of a shit show. Entertaining just because, again, you don't know who's going to come next. You don't know when, because there's no set reason. The Royal Rumble in '89, it was a big deal when I was a kid that it began with Axe and Smash. 1 and 2 were Demolition. And they didn't eliminate each other. They didn't hate each other. But for a moment there, they pounded the shit out of each other. And then the match continued. We didn't get anything with Lashley. Like you said, an amateur workout like you would have seen on Florida TV with those two
Yeah.
would have been good.
And then somebody starts to lose the temper right before they're interrupted. You never want. Here's the thing, and I know what the thing with Demolition, and that was their, Road Warrior like type of personality. But I believe you don't ever want partners punching each other in the face, trying to do damage to each other. If they're forced in a situation where they have to wrestle, it would be the legitimate wrestling thing, and then a temper would flare, but they would be interrupted. If they go too far, then it just kills the credibility of the team. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think about also Dory versus Terry in, what was it, 80 or 81?
81, 56 minutes.
Yeah. As part of the tournament, two baby faces, no one turned. They were brothers. They made it work somehow. Not saying it was the most exciting match of all time, but the concept. What do you think of the national belt? Obviously, taking its look from the classic 1980s national championship.
Well, I don't care if it takes its look from the goddamn Hope Diamond. It's ridiculous. The national champion, the TNT champion, the fucking world champion, the interim fucking dipshit champion. Everybody, and he has the guys carry belts from other promotions. And sometimes there's guys coming out with carrying 2 belts, and there's 6-man belts, and it's just silly. And it has diluted everything to where you would have to think that only the most diehard minority of the AEW fans would be able to, off the top of their head right now, who holds all the belts in AEW. Don't even talk about Ring of Honor or any outside companies, New Japan, and don't even think about Mercedes's 13 fucking belts or whatever it is. Just who's the champions in this main company? How the fuck?
Who's the TNT champion right now? Oh, no, I do know.
We ain't got to it
that's
yet.
That's actually on the show. I was trying to think of the champions in my head. That's right.
I know that because I've got it written down here in a few minutes, but it's another belt because their belt, Tony is a belt mark and the other guys are marks for having belts.